Hey, welcome to my quick and condensed Once Human beginner guide. Once Human throws an absurd number of systems, currencies and menus at you almost immediately, while barely explaining what actually matters. So in this guide I will give you a clear path for your first few hours. We will answer which scenario to choose, where to build, how settlements work, which facilities you actually need, and most importantly, how to get a proper weapon, armor set and enough ammunition to start fighting comfortably. By the end, you should have a functional base, a strong beginner build and a clear idea of what you do next. Starting with character creation, most of it is cosmetic, but your weight actually affects your stats. A lighter character gets increased movement speed, while a heavier character gets additional carrying capacity. I personally prefer the movement speed, because you spend a lot of time exploring, but neither choice will destroy your character. Pick whichever bonus you value more. If this is your first character, play the tutorial. It introduces several controls and key mechanics that you will use throughout this guide. It's very important that you finish the tutorial first. I won't talk about any of the mechanics inside the tutorial. After you finish the tutorial and you talk to Mitsuko, you will need to select a scenario. For a completely new solo player, Novice Manibus is the safest choice. Normal Manibus is also manageable if you're comfortable with survival games or playing with experienced friends, but it adds difficulty without giving you much benefit. I personally would ignore all other scenarios, especially the PvP scenario or the more complicated scenarios like Way of Winter, at least for your first playthrough. Once Human is confusing enough without learning all the additional rules that come with that. Also check how long the available server has already been running. Scenarios progress through multiple phases before eventually reaching their final phase, so preferably join one that hasn't almost finished. In case of Manibus, the scenario runs for 40 days, so ideally you would choose something between the 10 and 30 day range. Be careful before confirming your server. Once you join, you cannot immediately return to the selection screen. You can leave the scenario early at a later point, but it requires a special currency and it isn't something you can necessarily do after 5 minutes. Your exact starting location is not massively important, but spawning around Deadsville is convenient because the main story takes you there almost immediately. Let's jump into game. Place your territory as soon as the game asks you to. Your first base does not need to be permanent. You can relocate the entire territory later by entering build mode with B and then pressing Y. By the way, there's a flight mode. It's on the tilde key, like left of the 1. The game places a cooldown of 10 minutes on moving it, and you still need enough empty space, but you are not committing yourself to that location forever. Okay, now let's build the base. Your first important facilities are the primary stove for cooking food and boiling water, the primary gear workbench for crafting and repairing weapons and armor, the tech research workbench, which becomes extremely important once you start finding furniture and facilities in settlements. Later you also want a primary supplies workbench, a disassembly bench, a furnace and storage crates of course. In Once Human, a bed restores health and sanity, so even if you don't care about building a beautiful house, place one somewhere inside your territory. There are 3 controls you should remember immediately. Press I to open your inventory, press B to enter build mode, and constantly press Q while exploring. Q scans your surroundings and highlights containers and loose loot that you would otherwise easily miss. Let's start with the main story and get our first vehicle. Once you reach Deadsville, the main quest gives you a bicycle. This is actually an excellent early vehicle. It requires no fuel, can handle surprisingly rough terrain and remains useful long after you unlock motorcycles and cars. I actually prefer the bicycle over any other vehicle option because it's quiet and it's fun. Apart from the main story, your main early game progression loop is completing settlements. When you enter one, check the purple exploration objective on the left side of your screen or hover over the settlement on your map. It will normally ask you to complete several objectives such as activating a world stone, finding the mythical crate, finding weapon and armor crates. You don't need to search every individual room. Focus on the listed objectives, loot the important containers you encounter and continue progressing into higher level areas. Again, use Q frequently because it makes the crates and loose loot significantly easier to find. Let's talk about weapons. Your starting crossbow is perfectly usable here. It can kill basic enemies with one well-placed shot. and you can recover your arrows by walking over the defeated enemies. That makes it an excellent ammunition-saving weapon until you can sustainably supply a firearm. Completing settlements gives you experience, resources and Starchrom, which you will need later for your first real build. Okay, now for one of the most valuable early game items, the recycling tool. This allows you to pick up certain facilities or furnitures found throughout the world. If you find something you haven't seen before, take it with you. You can bring that object back to your territory and place it for free, but the more important option is actually researching it at your tech research workbench. The first copy can permanently teach you how to build that object without spending any tech points. Additional copies of something you already know can instead provide you tech points. Basic objects only provide you a few points, but advanced items such as weapon racks, large generators or other high-level facilities can provide enormous amount of research progress. We are talking thousands of points per one item. Because of that, always carry multiple recycling tools with you. You do not want to find a valuable object in the world and discover that your only tool has broken. Once you return home, take your collected facilities to the tech research workbench. Research anything useful that you haven't unlocked yet. Storage crates and workbenches are particularly valuable early on. Afterwards, bring unwanted weapons, armor and junk to the disassembly bench. Attention, there's one important trap here. Once you press select all on the materials tab, it will ask you if you want to destroy valuable items as well. Press no. Some objects, such as power cables, are needed for later progression. If you blindly disassemble everything, the game can destroy items that you will urgently need shortly afterwards. Disassemble weapons and genuine junk, but keep the unusual construction materials until you understand their purpose. Selecting all and then pressing no will only destroy less important items. At later stages of the game, you will get a hang of for what you actually need. For inventory management, an easy routine is to open your materials section of your inventory while opening a storage crate as well, and deposit all materials into a crate whenever you return home. Do not automatically deposit your entire inventory. You still need ammunition, food, healing items and the recycling tools while exploring. Okay, now for the skill tree. The tech menu is essentially what was Memetics before the change. It is divided into survival, production, combat and building. You don't need to study every unlock immediately. In your first few hours, prioritize things that solve an immediate problem. The primary supplies workbench gives you arrows, ammunition, gunpowder, healing items and additional recycling tools. The disassembly bench converts loot and junk into usable materials. The furnace produces charcoal and metal ingots. After that, the gear workbench allows you to craft and later repair your weapons and armor. And finally, storage crates stop your inventory from becoming a disaster. Do not spend all of your points unlocking decorative objects or facilities you may be able to research for free. Save your points for progression blockers. Okay, let's talk about the problem in the game. One human has far too many currencies, but two are especially important early on, and I want to talk about them now. Energy links are the standard currency used for crafting, teleporting and trading with players and NPC merchants. You earn them through quests, exploration, the journey menu. Later you can craft combo chipsets and sell them to settlement merchants for 12,000 energy links each. Every city has a merchant, and every merchant has a weekly purchasing limit, so visiting multiple cities allows you to make considerably more. One of the most valuable currencies is actually Starchrom. Starchrom is mainly used to unlock weapon and armor blueprint, and to increase their star level. Do not casually spend on random weapons just because they are looking interesting. You should decide between unlocking more options or investing deeply into one build. As a beginner, I recommend securing one functional build before experimenting. Also, regularly check your journey, scenario challenges, commissions, events and the battle pass. The standard battle pass has a lot of free rewards, and the event menus frequently contain currencies, deviations, mods, Starchrom, you name it, that you can simply claim for completing normal gameplay objectives. If you see that yellow notification triangle, check it. The menus hide a surprising amount of your progression. Okay, now for the most important part of this guide. The biggest problem I had as a new player was finding a simple answer to one question. What should I actually craft? So I'm going to tell you what I would craft in your shoes. This is by no means a meta build or a best choice, but it's a good and primarily cheap choice. My recommendation is the SOCR Outsider Power Surge build. Again, it's not necessarily the final build you will play forever, but it's simply strong, cheap, easy to use, and dramatically better than continuing to struggle with random equipment. The SOCR Outsider, or as I call it, the SCAR, costs around 2000 Starchrom to unlock. That is significantly cheaper than a legendary weapon blueprint, which normally costs around 8k. Combine it with Mayfly goggles, which make Power Surge trigger an additional time, and for the remaining armor use 3 pieces of heavy duty and 2 pieces of scout. A complete setup would be Mayfly goggles, heavy duty mask, heavy duty top, heavy duty gloves, scout pants, scout shoes. Again, the weapon costs 2000 Starchrom, the goggles cost 500, each heavy duty piece costs another 500, and the 2 blue scout pieces cost 50 each. That puts the complete build at 4100 Starchrom. You can earn this relatively early by completing settlements, scenario challenges, and claiming your available rewards. The crafting materials are also straightforward. For tier 1 you primarily need wood, copper, and animal hides. Wood and copper are everywhere. For hides, look for larger deer around the starting area. Smaller animals may not provide the hides you need, but large deer are common and easy to kill with the crossbow. Again, for now you will only craft 1-star tier 1 gear and weapons. At a later point in the game you will be able to craft up to tier 5 gear and weapons, which significantly increases their performance. Furthermore, if you really like the build, you can actually spend more Starchrom to start up, again increasing its stats and damage significantly. The general advice is that you use this gear for the first 2 areas, then you craft tier 3 for the 3rd and 4th area, and then finally upgrade into tier 5 late game gear. So basically you skip tier 2 and tier 4. This setup gives you significantly more health, weapon damage, and area damage through Power Surge. You do not need the perfect mods or attachments yet. Use any mods that support Power Surge, elemental damage, weapon damage, or critical stats. A mediocre or compatible mod is still better than leaving the slot empty. You can optimize everything later. For now, the weapon and set bonuses are doing most of your work. The SCAR is much easier to use than the crossbow, but it creates a new problem: ammunition. Initially, continue using the crossbow against the smaller enemies and save your firearm for dangerous elites, bosses, and situations where you actually need the damage. To craft bullets yourself, you need 3 systems working together. First, unlock and build a furnace. Use wood in the furnace to create charcoal and process copper ore into copper ingots. Next, collect sulfur, the yellowish deposits found throughout the world, and then combine sulfur with charcoal and acid at the primary supplies workbench to produce gunpowder. Finally, combine the gunpowder with your copper ingots to craft the correct ammunition for your weapon. Acid is actually one of the rarer resources in the game. I cannot show you this because it disappears once you buy it out, but there's a beginner shop that allows you to buy some acid. You should only buy acid in this shop. So now you can craft your ammunition. A few hundred rounds sounds like a lot, but firearms consume them very quickly. Even early bosses can burn through several hundred rounds, while later fights can require thousands. Build up a reserve rather than waiting until you have completely run out. You can also find ammunition and gunpowder while completing settlements, so keep looting ammo crates while using the crossbow for weaker enemies. At this point you have everything you need for a strong start. You have a territory with essential facilities. You understand the settlement progression loop. You know how to use the recycling tool and research to save tech points, and you have a complete path towards a proper Power Surge build and sustainable ammunition. From here, continue following the main story, complete settlements as you enter each region, and upgrade your facilities whenever the available resources improve. You do not need to understand every menu, every endgame system yet. Build a functional foundation first and learn the deeper systems when they actually become relevant. If there's a specific once human system you want me to explain next, leave it in the comments below. The next logical step would be preparing for your first monolith and understanding how weapon upgrades and mods work in more detail. If this video was helpful to you, consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. See you all in the next one. Bye bye.